Hey guys, welcome back to Pat's Creature Cave. Today, we're going to be rehousing my Caribena versicolor. Now, this is a spider that I've had for a little over a year now, and it's grown quite a bit, and it's definitely outgrown this enclosure. If you can see here, it is webbed up like no other. This is probably one of my top 5 spiders. It's an arboreal species that is very sensitive to ventilation, or lack thereof, I should say. And in this particular enclosure, which is the arachnid shop, I think this is a 446 or 447, somewhere around there. I've kept it in here since it was probably about the size of a quarter, maybe a little smaller, maybe a nickel. It was pretty small, and just a small little water dish in the bottom that after a while it became nearly impossible to fill up because of so much webbing on the top. This is a top opening enclosure, but it's done extremely well in here. I do know a lot of people struggle with keeping these alive. At least it seems like a lot when you look at the forums and whatnot. To be honest with you, probably for the last 6 or 7 months, I try to get some water, keep the dirt as wet as I can or somewhat moist in a spot. But usually I just once or twice a week open the lid a little bit and spray some water on the web. And this tarantula is done well. I want to show the enclosure that I'm switching to, which this one's an arachnid shop, which I really do like these top opening enclosures. Their front opening leave a little bit to be desired, the 669s, only because they are very thin. So they do flex a little bit. Probably my only complaint about them, but they're pretty good price. Let me show you what I'm switching this guy to. I haven't named it. It's just Antilles pinktoe. What I picked up, because they are local to me, is a purple box, or the Marshall Arachnids enclosure. This is a 669 sliding front. This is the hex enclosure, or hexed as they call it. You can see the ventilation on it. I really think that this enclosure is going to be great for this tarantula, only because of the large slots. I'm not feeding anything small anymore, so I don't have to worry about anything coming out. The tarantula is way too big, but it's a front opening, which is pretty much right to the top, which is the difference with the arachnid shop front opening. But the acrylic it's probably a 1/4 inch thick. Maybe, yeah, I would say a 1/4 inch. And it's got some good weight to it. It's got the purple bottom, which is kind of neat, but it's sturdy. It's built well. Even the blems. This one happens to be one of their blem enclosures. And quite honestly, I think that there's a small little crack here that's going between the magnet and the outside edge. That's the only thing wrong that I've been able to find on this blem. So don't be afraid to buy the blems from Marshall Arachnids. These enclosures are top notch. They even have some that have the screens on the side or the top that are basically the same as this. You can't go wrong. Whatever your preference is, these are great enclosures. I mean, the door, I can't say anymore. Jessica and Ryan do a phenomenal job with sourcing these, and they're just awesome. Now that we've got that out of the way, now I'm going to set this up for my Caribena. So we're going to start with some creature soil. Don't need a ton down here, just enough to hold some moisture and whatnot. So we'll probably call that about good. It's about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, which should be plenty for an arboreal species. Now we're going to need to put some plants in it, or some cork bark. So what I'm thinking is probably a nice cork round in the corner, or a cork piece, I should say. Now I am expecting this tarantula to web up a whole bunch at the top, kind of like it did in this one. The other thing we're going to do is anchor points. So I am going to glue this onto the side right here. Now, there's a little hole already where I just stuck the stem in. A little bit of hot glue up here at the top, and we'll be good to go. Now if you use hot glue, make sure you always get the little strings off. There's no sense in leaving things that look like spider web in an enclosure that's already going to be filled with spider web. Alright, now a little bit of moss. I use the ZoomEd terrarium moss. I use the compact brick stuff too, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it's a pain to work with. I find this stuff so much easier. But we'll just put some of this in here, in these back corners, just help hold some moisture, some water, and that's it. Pretty simple setup. Catch cup's going. Let's grab a catch cup. Such a beautiful spider. That wasn't too bad getting that little spoot in there. And there's a molt. That was a pretty easy rehousing. Pretty much was able to have the spider, coax it out of the old enclosure, walk down it onto the table, and then up into the new enclosure. What can I say? This is a great beginner species that is pretty docile. I mean, you can see the little thing just kind of cruising around right now because I didn't put the lid on. Alright, well that was fun. Actually got to handle this tarantula for once. But all set, new enclosure, which is a very nice Marshall Arachnids 669. If anybody's looking for a well-built, sturdy enclosure, be sure to check them out. I believe it's marshallarachnids.com. I will put a link down below. They are considered beginner species, but I would say because of the ventilation and humidity issues that some people do struggle with depending on where you live, they may be an intermediate to advanced beginner species, as is like most Aviculera species. Like I said, this one, I keep it pretty simple as far as how I care for it. At this size here, I feed it about every 5 or 7 days. Usually dubia roaches seem to be, or large crickets that have been gut loaded. And as far as moisture, I keep, now that it's in the new enclosure and I can actually get to the water dish, I'm going to keep the water dish full, overflow it a little bit, and then the moss that's in there that I put in the 2 spots, I will just spray that whenever I feed the tarantula. That way there's plenty of ventilation, there's moisture. As far as temperature wise, I don't provide any external heat or anything. My reptile room, or creature cave as I call it, stays between 69 at the very coldest, which only happens once in a while, to about 75 during the day, give or take, depending on where it's at and the level of the room. The higher shelves are always warmer, so I try to keep the species that like to be warmer up a bit higher and the other ones down a little bit lower. This one I keep right in the middle, so mid to low 70s. With that, if anybody has any questions, please let me know in the comments below. If you like species-specific videos or want to see more, and I do have more than just tarantulas, I do have quite a few different lizards and some other breeding projects that are coming up, be sure to subscribe. You never know what's going to show up next in the creature cave. So, as always, I'm going to leave you with some B-roll, so you all have a good night.